Welcome to The World Awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust.
I'm Kirsty Bedford, journalist, editor and travel writer.
And I'm Belinda Jackson, author, travel journalist and columnist, and we're your weekly co-hosts. Welcome back to The World Awaits. How are you all?
Hi everyone, how was your week, Belle?
Well, I've been catching up still after being away in Greece and Bulgaria, as you might have heard in last week's episode, where we also talked about my monumental 3.5-day journey home, which nearly actually broke me. But let's not talk about flying disasters because, Kirsty, it's your turn now to head off overseas. And where are you going?
Nowhere near as far as Greece, but as we're recording, I'm flying to Auckland in New Zealand and then heading up to the very far north of New Zealand's North Island in a tiny little town called Matari Bay, which is home to Rosewood Carry Cliffs and its remote luxury lodge, most famously known for its championship golf course. But there's also so much else to do for people who don't like golf, including me. Not that I don't like it, but I don't play it. And I'll tell you all about that when I get back.
Oh, yeah, can't wait to hear. I don't need to hear about the golf either, but I want to hear about the lodge. But in the meantime, we're going to give you some new insider info on the top trending destinations for 2025, which is according to American Express's travel annual trending destination list. So this list is based on Amex card members' travel bookings and expertise also from their global network of travel consultants, particularly with millennial and Gen Z travelers in mind. And while some of these might not surprise you, the number one destination just might.
Yes, so this might be very controversial, but Brisbane has actually topped the list of global trending destinations. I have to say I've actually always loved Brisbane, and I feel like particularly among my Australian friends, it gets a really bad rap for some reason.
Oh, I know. Well, I'm one of those because I just can't shake my childhood opinion that it's simply a giant country town where you can now buy a Tiffany ring. It's crazy hot and humid in summer, but it doesn't have a real beach.
Yeah,
Go on, convince me otherwise.
Look, it might not have a beach, but I think it has its own charm. So, if you take a little river cruise at sunset, and I just love that leafy New Farm area, which has this huge heritage listed riverfront park, and it's just great for picnics and so pretty. And there are some amazing weekend trips you can do from Brisbane anyway. So where you can go to beaches, so you don't need the beach there. You just need the great food and the lovely little city vibe. So, you can get up, stay in the city, get up, grab a coffee, and then go out to North Stradbroke Island, which is the closest place to Brisbane where you can see whales during migration season from land. So you can be on the land and watch the whales going past. And you can swim with manta ray too. And you can drive there in under 2 hours. I actually haven't been there, but I would love to go there. But one place I have been, which is another great day trip from Brisbane, is Moreton Island, where you can snorkel in the morning and then go tobogganing in the Tangalooma Desert in the afternoon. And we took the kids there, and it's only a 90-minute ferry ride from Brisbane. And I have to say, it was probably one of the best family holidays we've ever done. Like, there is just so much to do on that island, and it's so gorgeous. And there's these dolphins that swim up to the beach, and there are just lots of things to do, things to get out and get active.
I do think I'm just scarred from my early years because I grew up north of Brisbane. Can I point out, because I just did a story about swimming with whales just north of Brisbane, there were no whales there when I was growing up as a kid because they'd all been slaughtered for the whaling industry. So that population of humpback whales was only at about 400 left. And now, and I'm going to share a link to this story that I just did about the revival of the whale industry. So instead of killing them, now we're all going to look at them. The population, according to the scientists that I interviewed, it has been growing 10% year on year. So now they're like the biggest estimates are at about 40,000. So that I think has really changed places like Brisbane. But, when I was, back in the day when the only thing to do in town was to go to the Breakfast Creek Hotel for a session in the beer garden, I wasn't convinced. But look, I do love...
But how's that different from anywhere anyone grew up? I think back in the day, we all just went for a session in the beer garden.
Went to the beer garden. And it's still there. Breakfast Creek is still bloody pumping. God. But look, I do love how the city has now finally embraced its river. I agree with you on that one. I really like the overwater walkways. And last time I was up there, I just followed those walkways along the riverside. And what they've done now is build a series of new, what they're calling green bridges, which are for bikes and pedestrians only. Cars are forbidden on them, which is great because I went for a run. But to cross the river, a few years ago, I had to run with all of this traffic and stuff. It was just awful. So now they've got these, they're opening up these bike and foot pedestrian only bridges. And the dining scene is literally on fire, Gourmet Traveller magazine's top restaurant for 2024 is currently found in Fortitude Valley, once home to all the vices of gambling, alcohol and prostitution. Now you've got to head to Agnes. Don't you love how I managed to get prostitution in this one? Now you've got to go to Agnes for smoking hot wood fire cooking. And that is Gourmet's #1 restaurant. Interesting, right?
I know, it is interesting. And, like I said before, I just think a lot of regions, have taken a long time to come of age. So, I mean, you think about places like Port Melbourne and, that apparently used to be just a complete dive. No one would go there. And now it's, some of the most expensive real estate in Melbourne. So, and New Zealand's the same, and also we just didn't have many restaurants. I mean, I don't know. Have you heard of Cobb & Co? Do you have Cobb & Co in Australia?
The bakery mob?
No, it was a really common family restaurant called Cobb & Co, and that was sort of the only place we used to go. So there just weren't obviously weren't the
Cobb & Co in New Zealand.
Yes, Cobb & Co. Yes,
as in the
restaurant chain
system. No,
no,
it was named from. Oh, okay. It was set up by an Aussie. I'm going to go check that one out. Okay.
Anyway, aren't we lucky that the food and wine scene has evolved so much now? Now we have distilleries to go to and fine restaurants to dine at. So anyway, we would be remiss if we didn't give you the rest of the top 5 trending destinations. And number 2 is Brittany in the northwest of France. Its claim to fame, I mean, does it really need one? Hello, northwest of France, is because it's of its distinctive culture and coastal scenery with white sand beaches and pink granite cliffs. And it's also home to a medieval walled city and multiple award-winning restaurants.
Isn't that where they put butter on their butter? Like, it's famous for its butter. There's so much the story is so good that they butter their bread and then put butter on top. Oh, amazing. Franschhoek in South Africa came in at number 3. The area is ringed by mountains in the Cape Winelands region, and there's nearly 50 wineries there. So you can pop out on safari one day and then wine and dine on the next, which sounds like a pretty good holiday, I reckon.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And probably not surprisingly, but Koh Samui in Thailand is there too. I actually haven't made it there yet. I've been to Thailand multiple times, but I have never been to Koh Samui. But it's definitely on my travel to-do list because of those picture-perfect beaches and amazing waterfall hikes. And also there's a number of really stunning properties there now, like Ritz-Carlton and Antara, Four Seasons and Six Senses.
Yeah, all the big guns. And coming in hot at number 5 is Macau in China, which enjoys UNESCO World Heritage status and the local Cantonese Portuguese fusion cuisine, which just sounds crazy, but it works. But it's a must-try for foodies. And if you're into casinos, they are supersized, which is why it is dubbed the Las Vegas of the East. And we'll put a link in the show notes to the full list of those top trending destinations. You're listening to The World Awaits. Subscribe through our website at theworldawaits.au.
There are more than 8,200 islands in Australia, and this week I chat with Ultimate Islands Escapes author Emma Shaw, who whisks us away to some isles off our shores that you've possibly never heard of, and others you'll be racing to put on the travel to-do list. Welcome to the show, Emma.
Thank you.
It's so great to have you on The World Awaits, and congratulations on your new book, Ultimate Island Escapes Australia. Tell us a bit about your background and how you got involved in travel.
So I started as a travel blogger about 10 years ago. I really liked reading other people's travel blogs, but I found that a lot of them didn't have very many photos, and I wanted more photos of the places that I was hoping and planning to travel to. So I started my blog as a way to share my photos with other travelers and other people trying to plan their trips, and I would write like little travel guides. And then in 2020, my husband and I were going to travel around Australia in our vintage caravan for the year. And I just pitched my first book, which is called Ultimate Weekends, about all different destinations around Australia that you can take a little weekend trip. And that's how I started. And then now Ultimate Island Escapes is my second book.
Amazing. It's fantastic. It's we'll put all the links too in the show notes so people can find out where to get them from. But congratulations on that. Such an enormous achievement. So why did you choose to write about islands, and what specifically is it about islands that appeals to you?
I like to write about places that I want to travel to. So after traveling Australia's mainland for a couple of years for my first book, I wanted to explore a lot of Australia's islands. And I thought there was a bit of a gap in the market for a book that encompasses a lot or as many as possible of Australia's beautiful islands. So I pitched the idea to my publisher and they agreed.
So there's a lot of islands around Australia, probably more than people think. So how many islands did you actually have to visit?
I visited all the islands in the book except for 4. There was just 4 that we couldn't get to for logistical reasons, like the way we travel. Like there was one adults-only island that we couldn't get to because we travel with a toddler, and there was, Hinchinbrook Island is incredible for hiking, but hiking with a toddler, is not quite ideal. So we visited all of them except for just 4.
So how many islands did you visit?
I've included just over 40 in the book. So almost 40 islands in total.
Gosh, amazing. And how many islands are there in Australia in total?
Actual islands, there are over 8,000. Not all of them you can visit or, have resorts or things on them. But there are heaps of islands that no one even thinks about that you can even take a boat to and just go camping and almost have the whole island to yourself. They're all around the country. It's incredible.
So how did you choose which islands you visited?
We kind of went through the main ones, and then we tried to find islands, as many as possible from every region and state around Australia to showcase as much of Australia as possible. Queensland is obviously very, very island heavy, but we didn't want to book just on Queensland. We wanted to expand around the whole country. And we also wanted to include all different types of islands. So, while we have a lot of incredible islands that have fringing reefs and snorkeling and incredible opportunities like that, we also have a lot of really cool islands that are little country towns. For example, King Island and Flinders Island that sit in the Bass Strait between Victoria and Tasmania. It's literally like a little country town floating in the water. So we just tried to include as many different islands as possible and different types.
Yeah, amazing. And so what are some of the islands that people might not have ever heard of that you covered?
Well, we have an island called Cocos Keeling Islands, which is an Australian territory, but it's actually closer to Indonesia than it is Australia. It sits up near Christmas Island off the Western Australian coast. It's pretty much 27 tiny little islands sitting in 2 coral atolls with an incredible lagoon in the middle. It's the ultimate island destination, in my opinion, for a really off the grid, off the beaten track, untouched, beautiful paradise island. Another really cool place that we went is called Pumpkin Island, which is off the Capricorn coast in Queensland, which is a very small island that you can actually book out the whole island. If you get a group of family or friends together, it can even be cheaper than staying at a big resort.
Wow. So has it got where do you stay? Has it got a lodge or something on it?
Pumpkin Island has a handful, maybe 5 or 6 little beach houses on there. And then it's got one communal area. Everyone looks at the water. Everyone overlooks the beautiful sunsets. There's snorkeling. There are palm trees. It's just beautiful. And it's peaceful. It's just quiet and beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah, it sounds incredible. And so I love islands, and you're inspiring me to want to go to some of these islands. What are some islands you think people should put, if they can only ever do one or two islands in their lifetime, or they should put on their bucket list? What are the islands that you think that people should definitely visit?
I think it depends on what they want to experience. We have some incredible luxury resorts, bucket list worthy islands around Australia. For example, Lizard Island, Hayman Island, Orpheus Island, all incredible, bucket list, grand and all-inclusive experiences. And then we also have a lot of incredible wildlife experiences around Australia. So Heron Island was really high on my bucket list because we got to watch the sea turtles nesting and the baby sea turtles hatching and running to the water. That was incredible for me. There are also a lot of really cool islands like the Mackerel Islands, which people might not think of, but if you're into fishing and, off the beaten track seclusion, there's so many options.
Yeah, that does sound like that would be incredible. The wildlife is certainly something, as well as because when you think of islands, you typically don't think of wildlife, I guess, but
so there's really great wildlife experiences for whale watching all around Australia as well, especially around Gari. You can rent a bareboat and, stay on a bareboat for a week or however long you want, and the whales will literally swim right by your boat, right under your boat if you're there during the whale season. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that does sound quite remarkable. So what about for people short on time? What are some of the best islands for them to visit?
There are heaps of islands that are only a really short ferry ride away from major cities. So, for example, we have Rottnest Island off Perth, Fitzroy Island from Cairns. From Brisbane, you could go to North Stradbroke Island or Moreton Island, or Magnetic Island from Townsville. They're just short, 15 to 40-minute ferry rides away, and then you're straight into island life.
Yes, nice. That's what we all want, bit of island life. What's one island that you would definitely go back to if you had the chance to only go back to one?
Oh, that's the hardest question ever. Honestly, I would go back to all of them in a heartbeat. There was not an island that we didn't enjoy. And the thing that we really found amazing was, whilst islands can often sound quite similar on paper, they've got palm trees, water sports, beautiful beaches, every single island felt different and was a different experience. There were not two that I would say, oh, they're similar, even two in the same region or, close by each other. They're all so unique and different, from the resort to like the actual landscape and the beaches themselves. They're all completely different.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And so what else surprised you about when you did your research about islands around Australia?
All the islands around Australia are completely different in the way even that they've been formed. So some islands like Magnetic Island used to be connected to the mainland. There are roads, it feels more like a town. And then there are some islands like, for example, Lady Elliot Island in the Gladstone region, in the Bundaberg region, that were actually formed in the ocean from coral and bird poop, and are just like completely unique ecosystems all by themselves. Those kinds of islands in particular focus heaps on sustainability, and many of them are completely solar powered and don't use any single-use plastic, and really, really focused on minimizing their footprint, in the reef and in the ocean and in the environment, I guess. They all are focused on sustainability and creating a really beautiful environment for their guests and for the marine life that lives around them, the wildlife that lives on the islands. They're really unique places.
And that's so important, isn't it? Because of, ensuring longevity, and that, in generations to come, they can still experience these same islands that you were experiencing. That seeing that sustainability, those sustainability initiatives have such a far-reaching impact.
Yeah, and really to minimize, any impact, particularly on the reefs. They go through so much already. As visitors, we don't need to add add extra trauma to them. You know, they're really focused on keeping things safe and beautiful for as long as possible.
And why do you think that islands appeal so much to travellers?
I think islands have the possibility of letting you be completely off-grid and disconnected if you want. It's a beautiful environment, normally very unlike where you live at home. So it really gives you that holiday feel, you know, nowhere near big cities or traffic lights, things like that. They have incredible beaches, absolutely beautiful. And then there are these wildlife experiences and, you know, water experiences that you just don't do every day. So I think they really just give the holiday feel that people need these days to unwind and relax and really take a moment before they go back to their normal lives.
Mm. And did it really surprise you when you started researching that there, you know, of the sort of, you were saying, you know, earlier about how the islands are all so different, but did it really surprise you when you were researching them how many islands there were and how different they were, both in, you know, obviously locations and how far spread, you know, how spread out they were around Australia?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we couldn't even get to them all in the time that we had to research. And, you know, we were trying to travel in the peak season for every island so that we could capture the best photos to include in the book with weather and wildlife experiences, things like that. There were some that we would have loved to include that logistically we could not get to. For example, like remote islands off Arnhem Land in the Northern Territory that I wasn't confident to write about without visiting because there's not enough information that I could look through. But there are even more than anyone expects. Australia is full of islands, all different kinds, and they're all incredible.
Yeah. And what about islands, the best islands with kids, considering you were travelling with a toddler?
Oh, yeah. We had a 1-year-old at the time for all of those islands. There are so many options, not for the toddler, but I think for older kids. Moreton Island was incredible. They had so many activities. Say if you have like, you know, early teenagers or kids 8, 9, 10 type of age, that was incredible for just activities galore that would keep kids entertained for ages. My daughter Macy, she loved everywhere we went. She loved Hamilton Island with the golf carts. She was just obsessed, you know, little car seat in the golf carts. And she also absolutely loved the quokkas on Rottnest. She couldn't get enough of them. And she was just happy in every pool and beach that she went in. So I think every island that allows kids, because there are a couple of all inclusive, you know, adults-only islands around Australia too. There's always a playground somewhere. There's always somewhere for kids to be. You know, places like Hamilton Island often have kids eat free deals and things like that you can research as well. So they're very welcoming to kids as well. They're not just, you know, for adults.
Yeah, and we took our kids to Moreton Island when they were a bit younger, and gosh, there is so much to do, like you said. You know, and they can do sand surfing and four-wheel biking. And there are
different schedule of activities every day, you know, free activities, you know, paid activities, ATVing and sand tobogganing. Fitzroy Island also have fantastic kids programs. They had like jewelry making and things like that inside. And then they also had like kid-specific snorkeling programs and teaching them about the reef and stuff. That was really great too. So there are some great options if you want to get your kids out there as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if anyone wants to find out all about these islands, like I said earlier, we will put the link in the show notes. So we're going to end our interview with what's the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to you on your travels?
My husband reminded me about this the other day because I had actually forgotten about it. But when we were on our honeymoon, we were traveling from Mexico to Belize, and I had booked a flight that I thought was a normal commercial flight. And when we got to the airport, we were taken to a hangar with a charter flight, and we were the only 2 people on it. And it was just truly the most bizarre experience of our whole lives. We flew into Belize in the night. They kept the airport open for us. We literally had no idea what was going on. We thought we were getting just like a normal commercial flight with, 100 other people. We were the only people we landed at night, and then we had to drive 4 hours to the town that we were going to stay at in the night. Just the random car driver that I had hired did pick us up. We stopped halfway along that journey to pick up the local police officer because he needed a lift home. It was so weird. We just couldn't believe that it was all okay in the end, because there was a minute where we were really like, oh, we might not be safe here. Like, this is a bit odd. And then we got to our hotel and everything was fine. It was just so strange.
That certainly is very bizarre, but a memorable moment to look back on. Look, thanks so much for your time today, Emma, and and good luck with your book.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today.
I loved hearing about some of those more remote islands like the Cocos Keeling. And if you love a good island escape, and who doesn't, head over to hardygrant.com where you'll be able to buy Emma's great book.
Our tip this week is from Southern Cross Travel Insurance about how to ensure you're keeping good gut health while you're away and getting the freshest food regardless where you are in the world.
Look, I love this tip, Kirsty, because it is so pertinent, but it's one that we often forget. The tip is to sync your meal times with those of the locals. This way you're getting freshly prepared food. So think if you are the only people in a restaurant at 6 p.m. in Spain, which is famous for its as a late night dining destination, chances are you'll be eating reheats from lunch because the dinner shift hasn't get into the kitchen yet.
Yeah, well, look, we were actually pretty lucky when we were in Italy earlier this year, because even in the southern depths of Sardinia, we managed to find some places to eat for my famished teens who just couldn't seem to shake their Australasian time zone. And it would hit midday and they were just desperate to eat. And actually, one of the best places we ate, we were cycling between Toluca and Kia, and my older son, who was like, right, time to eat. I mean, to be fair, we were doing some pretty solid Ks each day. He pulled out his phone and searched TripAdvisor, and next thing you know, we're at this amazing restaurant where I had frigola, which is a famous sort of localized, only you can only get it in Sardinia, pasta, which is similar in size and shape to pearl barley, but it is just delicious. It tastes divine, and yeah, so it's amazing what you can find roadside if you're just prepared to go a little off the beaten track. And we were there at midday.
Well, look, I would say some places that you can hit lucky, others may not work. I'm thinking particularly if you're traveling in Muslim countries in Ramadan, at those observing the fast don't eat anything between sunup and sunset. So your kids would definitely not cope there because, like if you're starving at 3 p.m. and you're grabbing a snack and you're looking for a snack, chances are it was cooked at 3 a.m. and has been lying around all day until you came along, because the kitchens are actually closed, but they keep food out for people who are not fasting. So I'm sharing this from personal experience because I once arrived in Marrakesh during Ramadan, starving, grabbed one of their famous pastillas, which is like a chicken phyllo pie dusted with icing sugar. It sounds weird. It's absolutely delicious and absolutely detrimental to my gut. It was not the thing to grab when you're starving because it had been cooked, literally before sunup. And just laying around all day. God almighty, I was sick. But and the other thing, is to keep in mind what time of day certain dishes are eaten as well. So Greece, where I was the other day, bogatsa is it's another pastry. Hold on to your scales, people, and it's custard filled. It's a breakfast snack, so eating it for dessert might not be a smart move. If you're grabbing food on the go that you can't see is being freshly prepared for you from a kitchen.
And in Osaka, in Japan, their origin food is takoyaki, which are deep-fried octopus balls, octopus balls, which are cooked on the street in front of you, and that kicks off about 11 a.m. So if you find them hanging around and still warm at midnight, then you might be in some trouble. And Southern Cross Insurance also says if you succumb to Bali belly or Delhi belly, follow the brat diet, which is bananas, rice, applesauce and toast, We're not sure if applesauce is a staple around the world, but it seems bland is the key. If you'd like to help support our production costs, you can buy us a coffee at coffee.com/theworldawaits. That's ko-fi.com/theworldawaits, so we can continue to bring you inspirational travel interviews with the world's best.
Next week, I'm taking you to Peru and the rest of South America with my guest, Alejandro Saravia. The Melbourne-based chef has just opened his latest restaurant, Marina, which has also got an outpost in Sydney, which brings cuisines from right across South America. And I can tell you that the kitchen is ringing with Spanish, with chefs from right across the continent working there. So we are going to go back to Alejandro's homeland of Peru, which is, and then we're going to pick this local's brains on the best places to eat and to see in this beautiful food-obsessed country.
Wow, can't wait for that. That's making me hungry. And we also love ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. Click on our profiles, scroll down to the bottom to ratings and reviews and hit those 5 stars. And if you're on Spotify, go to our main page and click the 3 dots underneath our photo. Or please just drop us a line at hello@theworldawaits.au.
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods. And where can people find you, Kirsty?
I'm at Kirsty Wrights on Instagram. That's KIRSTIE Wrights, WRITES. And where can people find you, Belle?
You can find me at globalsalsa.com or on Insta at global_salsa.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.